Okay, Andrew, thank you for helping me collect some anecdotes about Thorbjorn.
So I met Thorbjorn early on in my time in the SCA, so it's probably 15 to 17 years ago. I'd gone to the very first Mid-Realm Rapier Symposium before Rapier was allowed in the kingdom. So we were still in experimental status. This is up in Horseshield. And we'd driven from Ohio and forgot about the time change. So we got there very early. And we pulled up to the site, and there was nobody there at all. The first person who was there after us was Thorbjorn. I remember he pulled up in his car. We looked over and we saw this rather cool-looking dude with the white hair and the white goatee and mustache and everything. And I said, "Oh, dude's got to be in the SCA." And so we sat there, and he puttered around in his car, and then he got out of the car, and he stood up, and he kept standing up for 3 or 4 minutes, it seemed like. Thorbjorn was extraordinarily tall. He was one of the most giving people I've ever known. I didn't know him particularly well. I was living in Ohio, and he was in Wisconsin, but he learned my name very early. Was always, remember to say hello to me by name. This was even before I was particularly famous. The thing I remember at Thorbjorn, of course, is because he is so tall, his arms stretched an extreme amount of distance. And so I remember back in those days, we were frequently pushed off into the side of a site, and frequently Thorbjorn could stand in one corner of the list field and just extend his arms, and you would be practically struck. Forget about being in range. He would extend his arm, and the sword would be 3 inches from your chest without him having to move his feet at all. But back in those days, of course, we used epes. And Thorbjorn's favorite technique was to fight case against buckler. And in those days, you have your epee. The epee has to have a curve to it. And because they don't want it to be straight, because apparently it would break more quickly if the epee was straight. So the epee had to have a curve to it. And Thorbjorn would curve his epes a lot so that they would be very curved. And then he would extend both of his arms, and of course, the swords are within range of you. He'd take a step forward, and instead of thrusting, he'd do this. Except that since the epee was curved, the point would be knocking against your head, and you'd take it. And that was one of my long-held favorite memories about Thorbjorn is his curved epes and knocking around the side of the buckler. He was a heavy fighter. He was one of the few people in the SCA at that time who was a member of the Great Dark Horde and also was a peer of the Mid-Realm. That shows you how high in regard he was held. And at the time, of course, the Horde they were the troublemakers. And if, for a horseman to be a peer of the realm was a big deal. I remember watching him fight heavy. He wasn't quite as fast as everybody said he had been in his prime, but he fought heavy about the same way that he fought Rapier. He'd extend his arms, and you'd be in range because he was just that big. So, one of my favorite memories of Thorbjorn, I remember after he died, we went to his memorial service. It was at an event, basically. We went to the service, and his wife was there, and we had a concert. And if you sang in the concert, she would give you something of Thorbjorn's. And so I sang, and my wife sang, and we have 2 mugs that were carried by him and kept in his house. So that carried on his tradition of giving. Really what was Thorbjorn was what he was all about, was doing that kind of thing. Always there for people, always ready to lend a hand. That's really, when I think about Thorbjorn, that's what I think about.
Okay, thanks very much.